Welcome everyone to this first session of the Layer Performance Program, co-hosted by H&N International and Avi News. In this first webinar, we'll be focusing on the key factors affecting egg size under the Asian production conditions. This includes body weight development, light stimulation management, and nutritional strategies to optimize egg performance. Remember that during the webinar, you'll be able to ask your questions through the chat. All these questions will then be answered at the beginning of the next session. Without further delay, I would like to welcome Xabier Arbe, Managing Director of H&N International, who will kickstart this first session and give us a practical perspective to these topics. Xabier, thank you for being with us today. The floor is yours.
So thank you very much, Avi News. Thank you for the opportunity of presenting today here, especially this topic of egg size factors in Asian production. So today I'm going to talk a little bit what affects you and what sometimes the frustration that can generate not achieving the egg size. So let's review some of those factors and how we can manage and avoid those kind of challenges that we might face in the Asian production to achieve those egg size targets. So in general, the egg size is going to be determined by 4 factors. The first one is going to be the body weight at the 5 and 6 weeks, and we will see a little bit later on what do I mean with this one. Then it's going to be the management of the light stimulation. This involves the body weight and the light stimulation that we are going to determine based on the recommendations of the genetic companies. The other part, of course, is going to be the nutrition. The nutrition plays a role in the exercise. And the other one is going to be the genetics. There are breeds that they are more prone to lay smaller or bigger eggs. So this is one of the factors that we need to take into account. This is, I would say, in general. But when we are going to talk about the Asia, I think we need to focus in these three parameters: the body weight at 5th and 6th week, the management of the light stimulation, and the nutrition. So, further ado, I mean, I don't want to spend too much time around it. Let's go and start talking about these three topics that you should be aware or you need to review if you are not achieving the exercise or you are over the exercise that you are targeting. So, why we are talking about the body weight at the beginning, the week 5, week 6? Well, as you can see in this slide where we have the development in the different tissues, protein, bones, and fat of the pullets, you will see that here in this period of time of the first 6 weeks, we are developing, we have a big development of the protein that usually is the muscle, but also the bones, week 5, week 6. Yeah. So what does it mean? Here in this period of time, in this short period of time, the pullet is going to develop the carcass size. There are recommendations from the genetic companies to have some body weight targets there. So the point here is that if we don't achieve the body weight that is recommended, you are not going to get the carcass ready for the developing that kind of exercise that you are looking for. So therefore, it's very important before anything talking about any parameter of exercise that you are targeting is to get the right body weight in this period of time. Because if you don't get it, then is when we cannot control, we cannot manage the exercise later on. So again, first this part, and then with this carcass again that we are building in this period, we are building the carcass of the future hen. If we are looking for a big egg and the carcass was small here, we cannot manage it. Also be careful. Even if you are looking for a small egg, you need to achieve the target body weight of the pullets. Because here, when you are not achieving also the body weight of the carcass, you are also forgetting that you are not achieving the development of the organs of the physiology of the hen for the future, and also the bones. Yeah? So this period of time is critical. Okay, I have a question for all of you. Just imagine that you have a brown hen. And I have a question for you. When are you going to make the light stimulation? After transfer? At 16 weeks? At 17 weeks? Or at 1,450 grams? I give you, let's say, 3 minutes to think about it, or perhaps you already have the answer. Which one, at what moment would you give the light stimulation? Well, for those that they have, think about it that you are going to give the light stimulation at 1,450 grams for a brown hen, and probably for the white hen would be 1,250, somewhere around that one. That's the correct answer. The light stimulation, if we want to control or we want to achieve the target exercise that we get in the management guide, it has to be based on body weight. Talk with your distributors and see what is the recommended lighting program, what is the body weight that you have to give the light stimulation. Please don't give light stimulation after transfer. I know sometimes people does it. And also don't give the light stimulation based on age. It is very important that when we give light stimulation should be based on the body weight that we have. Of course, also uniformity is very important, but the first thing, it should be body weight. If we don't have the body weight, we cannot give the light stimulation. It means the birds are not ready. Perhaps there were some mistakes, some challenges in reading. Yes, but even if they are those problems, in the next flocks we can solve it. But with this flock that you have already in place, be sure that you have the body weight that is recommended. This is critical, yeah, because I'm sorry to that, but you need to do a little bit job on weight birds, because if you want to have a successful exercise, you need to go and give light stimulation based on body weight. Because if you don't give the light stimulation based on exercise, you are going to have a significant effect from the point of view of exercise. And look at this trial, and you can do it by yourself or perhaps in your experience. We have 3 groups where we have different body weights, and this one is white hens, where the light stimulation was given. And you can see is that based on that light stimulation, that the body weight at 16 weeks, that it was when the body weight when the light stimulation was given, we have a very, very different exercise in production. So body weight at light stimulation matters, as we have seen previously also at week 5 and 6, but also related with the light stimulation. We can create very different conditions of production. We can have a very different flock depending on the body weight. So if you want to forecast or you want to know how is going to be your exercise in production, you need to weight the birds. And in that one, be careful of what can happen. Yes. And what do I mean with this one? We need the both factors together. We need the body weight at the standard at the week 5 and week 6, but we don't want to have compensatory growth. Sometimes we can have body weight at 16 weeks at is on target, but we are not going to get the exercise that we want because we didn't have the body weight the week 5 and 6. So both conditions, the first one I was mentioning, the body weight at week 5 and week 6, and the light stimulation body weight, they are correlated. Body weight. So we need to have both to have a successful production. And in that aspect, let's go a little bit more in that aspect. If we are not achieving the body weight at week 5 and 6, what is going to happen is we are going to have that compensatory growth with an excess of fat development, mortality due to prolapses because we didn't have the carcass development as we expected, and also we are going to lose number of eggs because we are going to have the mortality and the birds were not ready. When we are not stimulating based on body weight at the start of the production, we are going to have a early and later mortality too. Similar situation, but you can see is that there are different ways of approaching. And the egg weight, might like it because you don't know what was the body weight. It could be early, it could be late, it could be on time. If it's on time, you are lucky. But if you don't weight the birds, you don't know what is going to happen. So both factors are correlated, and both factors, as they are correlated, if you don't comply with them and you are not able to achieve them, you have the problem in both. Okay, now let's go to talk about nutrition. We have to realize that 80% of the amino acids of the intake are going to be used for egg weight. This is something that is well known. You can check all the different recommendations and equations, but most of the egg mass from the egg production is going to depend on the amino acids. There's going to be a fraction at the beginning for the growth for amino acids, and then that we are going to have a flat, more or less flat needs of maintenance that they are dependent on the body weight. But remember is most of the amino acids are going to be for the egg mass. So what does it mean? That if there is no enough intake of amino acids, we are not going to get the egg size. Now I want to show an example, a trial that we have done in H&N in our R&D of feed. Since 2023, H&N is already having assigned budget for R&D of the feed. So you can see here is that we did 4 different levels of amino acids. I don't care protein. The protein is a sum of nitrogen of the diet. What the birds need are amino acids. So you can see here is that we have same energy level, 4 different levels of amino acids, and then similar amount of calcium and phosphorus. We gave these diets at 26 weeks, and we kept them until 56 weeks. So what did we see here? Well, from the performance point of view, all the birds, all the groups perform very well with no problems. The very lows, the lows, and the highs and very highs, they were in the standard, they performed very well. Later on, what we can see about the exercise? Well, about the exercise, you can see is that we have 4 different treatments and we have 4 different responses of the diets. Of the diets, I'm sorry, 4 different responses to the diets. So in this case, the bird was Nick Chick. Nick Chick is a white bird, but you can see the response is very clear. 4 different levels. The very low show very low levels, low level of exercise. It was around 60. Then the low and the high would be between 62, 63 grams. And then the very high, it was given around a size of 64. So what it's telling you here is that when the birds have the intake of amino acids, they will show you a response. And this response, as you said, as you can see, if they have the good package of amino acids and is balanced, they will give you more or less exercise. In this way, you can control the exercise that you want, because all these birds, they have the same good, they had good body weight at week 5 to week 6, and when the light stimulation was given, it was based on body weight. So same light stimulation, same body weight in rearing, and here you have that with the nutrition, we can modify the exercise. Not only that, we play a little bit with the groups. So you can see here is that the very low, later on, what we did is in a parallel trial, this was from 26 and 44 weeks, we keep them giving this kind of the same levels, very low, low, high, and very high. And what we did is we switch diets. Yeah. And you can see in this switch with this different setup of birds that we had, we changed from the very low to very high. And you see the response? We had higher levels, and we have the low change to high, the high change to low. And also you can see that from the very high, we saw the response to very low. This is important. Yeah. So the sensitivity of the modern layers, and at least what we saw with the H&M birds, in this case with Nick Chick, is that the sensitivity of the hens to the levels of amino acids is there. The question is to find a balance as long as we have a good pullet and a good light stimulation from the beginning. But one of the things that we have to realize in Asia is that we have a factor in the energy needs. Yeah, and why I'm going to relate it amino acids needs also with the energy needs. Well, give me 2 slides and I will try to explain it. Well, if we think about the energy needs of the birds, you can see here is that the main needs are going to be for maintenance. 65% of the energies, and they are dependent on the body weight of the birds. Then we have at the beginning, we know is that there is a growth of the pullet of the hen. The energy is going to be needed. And then the rest is going to be for egg mass. But in Asia, usually for the type of production, there are not so many climate control houses. We have hot climate. I mean, now I'm in Bangkok. Right now, I think it's 35 degrees since 9 o'clock in the morning. No? So if we don't have a good insulated house with good ventilation and things like that, we need to take into account that those birds are going to have a heat stress. And what does it mean, a heat stress? What are the ways that the birds are managing the heat stress? It's going to be flapping and painting, and that requires energy. Those requirements on energy, more or less here, address it in a way that they are in red. They are maintenance needs, yeah? So that means that if we don't take into account those needs for heat stress, or we don't make an insulation of the farm, or it's an open house, whatever it is, yeah, those needs that they are maintenance are going to be taken, are going to be taken by the bird from the whatever was left for production. So what does it mean? Is that birds that they are heat stressed, they are going to have, at the same level of energy intake, they are going to have less energy available for production. There's a factor of production that needs energy, correct? Well, not only that. Well, the energy of our feed at the end is a mathematical exercise, yeah? To have the energy of a diet, we need to take into account that we are going to have the starch, the amino acids, and also the fat that we put in the diet. Correct? Well, so what is going to happen with our energy? Well, in normal or thermoneutral conditions, first, we are going to address the energy by, let's say, part of the energy is going to be eaten or consumed, let's put it in this way, by the maintenance needs. And then the rest, what is available, is going to be for production. But in hot climate conditions, what we know is that we are going to have the normal maintenance conditions plus the heat stress. When the bird is using energy, it doesn't make many times distinctions of if it's coming from a starch, it's going to be coming from amino acids, or it's coming from fat. Indeed, the hen usually spends first fat if it's available, but then also can use amino acids as source of energy. So what does it mean, this one? Is that as we have more energy needs, some of this energy might come from amino acids. And as they come from amino acids, so it means that available amino acids for egg mass, as we have seen before, they are going to be fewer. So that is going to diminish, or is going to be a struggle to produce the egg size that we are looking for. Therefore, one of the things that we have to think from the point of view of the amino acids in the diet and the energy in the diet, we need to think about they are very related. So we have seen that in the trials, if the hens have those amino acids, she will lay egg size. But what about in the heat stress conditions, if the hen is using a specific or essential amino acids as an energy source for managing the heat stress? The amino acids some amino acids they were burned from energy become limiting when we are talking about creating egg size. So this is important for you guys, is that as long as there are amino acids, there's egg size, but there has to be an intake and absorption, but also from the perspective of utilization. If your birds are having heat stress, be aware that you need to take into account that putting additional energy if you want to have more egg size. Because if not, you are not going to control how the energy partition happens. And it might be that some of amino acids are used as an energy source, and then we will struggle with egg size. Well, I want to also highlight something that in the nutrition point of view, it's always repeated, and is linoleic acid, linoleic acid, linoleic acid. Linoleic acid is important for egg size? Yes. But I want to bring one point that is very important, specifically also here in Asia, that you are using corn diets and corn soya diets with byproduct, but also you are using palm oil. Yeah, and sometimes it could be, I struggle to get the linoleic acid that I'm looking for. Okay, let's go step by step. So I want to bring out this trial. It was a longer trial, but I want to show you some highlights. A trial from Bonilla in 2011. So the point here is that you can see we have a corn diet, barley diet, and wheat diet. And in this case, we have with the corn, soya oil, 3.4. Okay, it's a little bit more higher than the other two, and you get 64.9. So then somebody can say, hey, Xavier, that supports that the higher I have the linoleic acid, better it is because I can have bigger excise. Well, let's put what happened here. In the same trial, what they did is they used corn with soap stocks where they were lower in linoleic acid. And you can see is that linoleic acid was 2.1 and the excise was the same. So what I want to show you with this trial is that the linoleic acid is like any nutrient. Yeah. When there is a limitation in linoleic acid, yes, it will limit your excise. But once you reach that level, that usually is around 1.1, 1.2% in the feed, in the commercial feed, you don't need more. Or at least let's put it in this way. It's not going to be the limiting factor from the point of view of excise. But one of the things that I can tell you is that the other factor that is going to play a role is going to be the added fat. Yeah, there are other experiences that what they show is that when you increase the added fat, you are going to increase the excise that you have. I know some of them you are going to tell me palm oil, coconut oil is not cheap. Well, what are we talking about? Do we want to have bigger excise or not? Because if the market is demanding a bigger excise, as a nutritionist, we need to think about it. Does it worth it? Or at least we need to present. And then another one that I want to say here, and it's not really related to the excise, is that you know very well that a diet that doesn't have enough fat or added fat or sources of fat, it will have a problem of liver health. Yeah, fatty liver, it is very related with diets that they don't have any added fat. I know it's more expensive, yes, but it's what the birds need. If we want to keep hens until 100 weeks, 120 weeks of production, we need to protect the liver. And if that one requires 2% of added oil, we need to put it. Not because it's expensive or cheap, it's because it's what the birds need. At least if we want them to those birds to perform until longer time and keep producing eggs, no? But going back to this aspect, linoleic acid is important, yes, but until you reach the 1%, with 1%, 1.2% in the diet is more than enough. As you can see in this trial, no matter how big you put the linoleic acid, you keep having the same amount of, you can have big excise no matter what. So these webinars are short. So as a summary, the body weight at 5 and 6 weeks is very important. So having the correct brooding with good temperature, fresh water is important. And the other one that is important is going to be is give feeder space. If you are not able to achieve the body weight at week 5 and 6, check those things: temperatures, water, temperature of the chickens, temperature of the water, and be sure that you give the right feeder space based on the recommendations. Body weight at light stimulation. Check the body weight. You need to know if the birds are ready to go or not. The go or no go signal is, do they comply with the right body weight? From the nutrition perspective, amino acids. Is there enough intake of the amino acids? Because you have seen, if there is the intake, you have the excise. And the other one is that even if there is that intake, are those amino acids available for egg weight production? Are we sure that those amino acids are not burned in heat stress? Those are the things that you need to think about it from the nutrition perspective. And then also, as I mentioned, linoleic acid, yes, is as important as nutrients, but not as key as sometimes I found when we have discussions with many egg producers around this area. You need to provide what is needed, but you don't have to go in excess. You need to think about it. The other one is adding fat, adding oils in the diet is going to be something beneficial from the point of view also for the egg size, but also for the liver health as mentioned. So I want to thank you, the organization, to give me the chance to give you these key factors of the Asia for the egg size in Asia. So thank you very much, Avenues Asia. So looking forward to have some questions and answer them later on.
Thank you very much, Xabier, for this interesting and practical presentation and for sharing with us today your insights on these topics. I would also like to thank all the attendees for joining us in this first session of the Layer Performance Program. As mentioned at the beginning, all your questions that have been submitted through the chat will be answered at the start of the next session. We look forward to seeing you again in July for the next webinar called Layer Management under Hot Climate Control, which will be presented by Fernando Carrasquer. Thank you again, and see you in the next session.